All right, everyone, welcome back. We're going to focus briefly now on plant-pollinator mutualism, specifically in agriculture. Not going to dwell on this a ton, as a lot of the interactions that we're going to be talking about are pretty generalized. I just want to kind of focus on kind of the big picture items here. So most of the fruits, vegetables, and tasty things that we like to enjoy every day, things like berries, apples, pumpkins, coffee, chocolate, are all dependent on plant-pollinator mutualisms from a variety of different taxa, ranging from beetles, butterflies, moths, to flies and bees. And if we do the math on a worldwide scale here, about 70% of agricultural crops benefit in some way from insect pollination. 30% of total crops are entirely obligately dependent on insect pollination to produce marketable fruits or vegetables or seed crops, whatever we're interested in. And this amounts to a pretty substantial amount of money. At the U.S. level, these services are valued between $4 and $15 billion annually, and about $215 billion worldwide. So this is a pretty substantial service that's being provided, in many cases free of charge, by wild insects. So to put this into more of kind of a visceral and a visual context, a few years ago, Whole Foods went through a campaign dedicated to showing their customers the benefits of these plant-pollinator mutualisms and the benefits that they can realize from them. So they took a before photo of their produce department when you have bees in your landscapes, basically. So these are all the different produce choices that you can get when bees are ubiquitous and present and providing their pollination services. They then removed everything that was dependent upon or benefited primarily from insect pollination from the shelves, and you were left kind of with this really bleak photo and quite a few lesser items to select from. So a lot of these narratives that we see oftentimes will suggest that wild insects are really all visiting crops and they're all providing these really important services, and that's not necessarily the case. The mutualisms that we really rely on are actually a pretty rarefied subset of those that exist generally. So this meta-analysis by David Klein et al. Kind of hits this point on the head. What we're looking at here is basically a species accumulation curve from the meta-analysis. So we have the number of studies that are on the x-axis, and then we have the cumulative number of species on both the left and the right. The right axis in black refers to the regional species pool. So as you increase the number of studies, you increase the number of species in your regional species pool. Now, the number of insects that actually visit plants, so this is all crop visiting insects, even if they only visit something once, makes up a pretty small proportion of that, somewhere between a fifth and a sixth of the total number of species in the regional species pool. This is that blue dashed line in the middle. Now, if we think about the dominant crop visiting species, that is those that are visiting, producing about 80% of the crop visits, it's even a rarefied picture more yet. Only 2% of species contribute about 80% of crop visits, and these are mostly managed species such as honeybees and in some cases blue mason bees and bumblebees as well. And a lot of the reason why we see these kind of results is that we can think about how we actually manage the agricultural systems that are dependent upon these mutualisms. And these systems aren't just dependent on pollination as well. We also are dependent on mutualisms such as the services provided by natural enemies to control pest populations, as well as insects and invertebrates within the soil food web that are helping to break down and recycle nutrients and making things available for plants to use. And through the past century or so, we have systematically replaced these mutualisms with artificial technological solutions such as pesticides and commercial insects that we can actually purchase and migrate and move to provide these services, and things like nitrogenous fertilizers, which can really take the place of a lot of these kind of below ground food web operations that produce a lot of the nutrients we need for plants. So in thinking about that last slide, we're going to then kind of transition to how our management of agricultural landscapes actually impacts these pollinator mutualisms at a larger spatial and temporal scale. That'll be in the next video.